On Earth, deep within the heart of a classified military base, something unusual catches the eye of a tech officer monitoring a steady stream of signals from the outer rim of the galaxy. A small anomaly, a strange burst of energy that doesn't belong to anything known. The officer raises an eyebrow, wondering if it's just another glitch, but the frequency lingers, its irregular pulse, unmistakable and deliberate. Someone or something is sending a message. After a few minutes of confusion, the signal is flagged as a priority and quickly transmitted to a handful of higher-ups within the space command. Their faces shift from curiosity to concern. As the signals aren't random, they're intelligent. They seem to be a structured plea for help. As the code is cracked and translated, the message becomes clearer and more dire: help us or we fall. A hushed silence falls over the room. As the weight of the message settles in for a moment, no one moves, no one speaks. The words from the alien race known as the Carlians are chilling. They describe an ancient enemy, unlike anything seen before, a relentless force that has been conquering world after world in a war that has lasted for eons, with no end in sight. Their desperation is evident, their tone flat with fear. They are not asking for aid, they are begging for it. The news spreads like wildfire across the globe as government officials and military leaders convene emergency meetings to discuss what to do. Earth has not been involved in any galactic conflicts of this scale for centuries. The recent era of peace has lulled humanity into a false sense of security. Now the weight of the unknown presses in from the stars. At a military command center located deep underground in the heart of Europe, a coalition of Earth's most dangerous warriors, the Deathworlders, gather, their minds sharp and bodies honed from the harshest environments in the galaxy. Planets with scorching deserts, frozen tundras, and violent storms, where only the toughest survive. These men and women are the most elite soldiers in the universe, bred for survival through sheer brutality and determination. Their leader, a man named Talon, who had once survived the acidic rains of a dying planet, stands before a massive holographic map of the galaxy, his eyes fixed on the Carlian homeworld. The galaxy is vast and filled with unimaginable dangers, but this signal has piqued his interest. He knows that the Deathworlders have long been underestimated by the rest of the universe, but he also knows their reputation is their greatest weapon. A voice from the back of the room cuts through his thoughts. It's Lieutenant Yara from the jungle moon of Mercutio. She's known for her ruthless efficiency in battle and her quiet demeanor. She speaks with a tone that commands attention. We go to them, and if we fail, it's on us. She says her words are simple, but the gravity behind them is undeniable. The Deathworlders are always ready for a fight, but they never rush into one without understanding the cost. Talon nods, acknowledging her point. His mind runs through all the possibilities: the unknown enemy, the risks, the potential fallout. It's a war unlike anything they've faced before, and yet a fire burns in his chest. This is what they were made for. This is the moment where they can prove that survival isn't just about escaping, it's about conquering, no matter what stands in their way. He looks at the rest of the room as their gazes lock in mutual understanding. The decision is made. The fleet moves out. The Deathworlders prepare to leave Earth behind and venture into the void. They're not just going to answer a call for help, they're going to make sure the galaxy remembers the name of Deathworlders forever. As the Deathworlders prepare for their mission, the atmosphere inside the hangars is filled with anticipation. The fleet has already been mobilized, and the soldiers are gathering in clusters around their ships, each warrior with their own set of skills and backgrounds, ready for what lies ahead. They know the path will not be easy, but this is what they live for: the harshest of trials, the most brutal of enemies. This is where they thrive. On the barren plains of Titan, Captain Kira stands on the landing pad of her ship, the Raven's Talon, a heavily modified war vessel designed for both aerial and ground combat. She runs her fingers along the ship's cold metal surface, inspecting every detail. The ship has been through countless battles, but it's always been ready for more. She's been through enough to understand the importance of precision in combat. When it comes to survival, you never leave anything to chance. Her team of sharpshooters assembles around her. They've trained in the icy winds of Titan, where the air is thin and the cold could kill in minutes. They know how to use their environment to their advantage, and they do so with deadly efficiency. On Venus's storm-lashed jungle, Sergeant Anzo works on preparing his team of jungle fighters. Their weapons are custom-built for close combat, and they've all survived the planet's deadly flora and fauna. They've battled colossal beasts that could rip a man in half with ease, and fought through suffocating humidity and violent thunderstorms. They're used to relying on their instincts and their bond with one another. They know when to fight, and when to retreat when the enemy is stronger, or when they can turn the tide with a well-placed ambush. Lieutenant Yara from Mercutio is overseeing the preparation of the fleet's heavy assault teams. Mercutio's violent jungles and animal-like predators have shaped her into one of the deadliest warriors alive. Her men are a mix of former soldiers and survivors of the most brutal conflict zones across the galaxy. They've lived through unthinkable conditions, yet they still fight with purpose, each one a master in guerrilla warfare and brutal hand-to-hand combat. As she watches her soldiers move with practiced precision, she feels a surge of pride. They are ready. Back on Earth, the final preparations are underway. The fleet is assembled. It consists of ships of all sizes, from small but agile scout vessels to massive dreadnoughts capable of unleashing entire salvos of destruction. The Deathworlders have always been adaptable. They've survived countless challenges, from the harshest deserts to the deadliest jungles, and now they must face an enemy they know little about. But it doesn't matter, they are ready. The ships are fully stocked with supplies, ammunition, and weapons that have been tested in the bloodiest of battles. As the fleet's captain Talon surveys the gathered warriors, he feels the weight of the mission on his shoulders. He has always led with the knowledge that his team is more than just soldiers. They are survivors. They are the last hope for so many. And it's a responsibility he takes seriously. He knows that once they leave Earth's atmosphere, they may never return. But that's never been the concern of the Deathworlders. Their loyalty to each other and their unyielding will to fight is what has always carried them through. A deep hum fills the air as the fleet powers up, and the first of the ships begins to ascend into the sky. The Deathworlders exchange nods and quiet words of encouragement as they make their way to their vessels, ready to face the unknown together. Talon looks one last time at Earth, and then his gaze turns to the stars ahead of him. They are heading into a new chapter of war, one that will test them like never before. The galaxy is vast and filled with untold dangers, but as long as they stand together, they will face it all with unshakable resolve. The fleet moves out from Earth's orbit, the dark expanse of space stretching out before them like an uncharted wilderness. The hum of the engines is a constant reminder of the journey ahead, a journey that will take them into the unknown. With each passing minute, the Earth they leave behind becomes smaller and smaller until it's nothing more than a distant speck in the vastness of space. The Deathworlders are undeterred, their focus sharp, their thoughts on the mission that lies ahead. Captain Kira is at the helm of the Raven's Talon as the ship glides through the vast emptiness. Her crew works with precision, each member knowing their role without needing to speak. The stars outside the windows are a blur as they pass by at faster than light speeds. But to Kira, it's all too familiar. The silence of space and the isolation it brings are nothing new to her. She's navigated through the cold wastes of Titan's moons and survived the brutal winters of Arcturus, where the wind could freeze a man solid in seconds. Space feels like home to her. She's seen the worst the galaxy has to offer, and she knows that if anyone can take on what's coming next, it's her team. In the war room of the flagship, Talon and his command staff are reviewing their course and strategy. He stands at the front of the room, his eyes scanning the holographic map of the galaxy. The Carlian homeworld is still several weeks away, but the journey is never straightforward. There are always anomalies, dangers that lie in wait in the uncharted regions of space. Their intelligence reports have mentioned pockets of hostile activity scattered across the area, but nothing definitive. They'll need to stay sharp. They can't afford to underestimate what lies out there. Lieutenant Yara stands off to the side observing the battle plans, her arms crossed. She's not one for talking much, but when she does speak, people listen. Her mind works fast, calculating each possible outcome and potential risk. She knows that any move they make has consequences, especially when they're dealing with an enemy whose tactics are still a mystery. Her thoughts drift back to the moment they received the plea from the Carlians, the desperation in their message, the fear. She can't shake the feeling that they're being drawn into something much bigger than they realize. On the lower deck, Sergeant Anzo's team is preparing their weapons, each soldier double-checking their gear, ensuring everything is in perfect condition. Their mission might involve more stealth and close combat than full-scale battles, and they need to be ready for anything. Anzo runs his hand through his short-cropped hair as he inspects his men's work. He's been through enough war zones to know that chaos is inevitable, but preparation is key. They'll need to be able to think on their feet, no matter what challenges they face when they reach the Carlian homeworld. As they pass through the outer rim and head deeper into unexplored space, the crew can feel the shift, the weight of the unknown settling over them. It's a different kind of tension, the kind that only comes when you're heading into territory that's never been mapped. There's no telling what kind of obstacles they'll encounter along the way, and as the days stretch on with no sign of anything abnormal, the sense of unease grows. It's the silence that unnerves them, the feeling that something is watching, something waiting. On the bridge, Talon watches the stars flicker by his eyes, narrowed in thought. He's been in situations where the unknown was the most dangerous part, but this is different. Something about this mission feels off. It's more than just a simple rescue. They're being pulled into a conflict that might change everything. The galaxy is vast and filled with dangers, but even he knows there are threats out there that no one can predict or prepare for. As the fleet continues its journey through the vastness of space, every ship moves as one, their course set, their resolve unshaken. But in the back of their minds, all the Deathworlders know one thing for certain: they're entering a new chapter of war, one that will test them in ways they cannot yet imagine. They can only hope they're ready for what comes next. The fleet finally reaches the Carlian homeworld. After weeks of travel, the planet appears on the screens of their ships, a stunning sight marred by the obvious signs of conflict. The once thriving cities now stand as hollow monuments to a dying race. Broken buildings jut from the surface like skeletal remains of a lost civilization. The Carlians are a delicate species whose beauty is mirrored in their frailty, their skin pale and smooth, their eyes large and wide. As if always searching for something in the stars, they had once been peaceful explorers of the galaxy, but now their existence teeters on the edge of extinction. The Deathworlders are not given a grand welcome. Instead, the Carlian leaders offer a quiet but sincere greeting. Their faces, drawn from the horrors they've endured, the planet's atmosphere is thick with tension as the warriors disembark from their ships, their heavy boots thudding against the cracked and damaged streets of the Carlian capital city. The air smells faintly of burnt ozone and decay. It's clear that the Carlians have been fighting for survival for far longer than they let on. The Carlian ambassador greets Talon personally. Her name is Aria, and though her stature is small and fragile, her eyes carry the weight of countless lifetimes of pain and loss. She explains in somber tones the history of their people, their rise and their fall, how they had been once revered throughout the galaxy for their scientific achievements, their peaceful ways, and their ambition to unite star systems through diplomacy and cooperation. But now they are alone, surrounded by enemies they can't even name. Their greatest fear is the ancient enemy that has stalked them for centuries, the Dark Order, a race of conquerors with a single goal: to erase all other life and take control of the galaxy. As Aria speaks, Talon listens intently. He has seen many enemies in his life, but nothing like this. The Carlians' descriptions of the Dark Order are chilling. Their enemies seem to be more than just a physical force. They are an idea, an unstoppable will to dominate and destroy entire civilizations without mercy. Their technology is ancient beyond measure, and their ships are capable of reducing entire fleets to ashes. With barely a strike, the Carlians have tried to fight back, but their forces are too weak, their weapons too outdated. They are losing, and they know it. The Deathworlders begin to gather in small groups around the Carlian leaders, listening to what they have to say. Talon knows that this is not just about helping a distant people. They are stepping into a war that could stretch across the galaxy, a war that could alter the fate of every living being in the stars. And though the Carlians are desperate for their help, the Deathworlders are not so eager to trust them. They've seen too many alliances break under the weight of false promises. They know that sometimes survival is a matter of luck, not diplomacy. Captain Kira stands at the edge of the group, her arms crossed as she watches the exchange. The Carlians seem genuine, but there's a weakness in their eyes, one that suggests they've been pushed to the brink of despair too many times to believe in hope anymore. She's seen it before in soldiers and survivors who have been through too much too quickly. Her instincts tell her to be cautious, but she knows her people will follow Talon's lead, no matter what the mission is, and whatever lies ahead, they will face it together. The Carlian ambassador finishes her speech with a single plea. "We are not asking for your mercy. We are asking for your strength," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "We have nothing left but our will to survive, and we ask you to fight alongside us." Talon meets her gaze, his face unreadable. The decision has already been made. The fleet will fight the Dark Order, but the true battle is not just for the Carlian survival. It's for the survival of everything the Deathworlders hold dear. The air is heavy with anticipation as the Deathworlders begin to strategize their next move. The Carlians have shared all they know, but the true test is still ahead. The Dark Order has proven itself to be a relentless enemy, and the Deathworlders know that nothing is certain, not even victory. The fleet has barely finished its first night on the Carlian homeworld when the first wave of enemy ships appears on the horizon. At first, it's just a faint flicker in the distance, but as the Carlian sensors light up with activity, the threat becomes undeniable. The Dark Order is here. Talon's hand slams onto the table in front of him, his eyes narrowing as he watches the incoming fleet's approach on the holographic map. It's massive, too massive for their current resources. He's seen enemies before, but this feels different. This feels like something they might not be able to overcome. On the bridge of the flagship, the crew is already on high alert. Communications are flooded with reports of enemy ships emerging from hyperspace. Their designs are unlike anything the Deathworlders have encountered before. Sleek, dark hulls that seem to absorb the light around them. Their weapons systems are equally terrifying, advanced and brutal, with capabilities that seem beyond comprehension. These ships don't just destroy, they erase entire fleets from existence. Yura's voice cuts through the tension as she gives orders to her teams down below. Her hands move rapidly over the console as she calculates the best course of action. "We don't have time to question them," she says, her words clipped and sharp. "We engage, and we survive, or we die trying." She turns to Talon, her eyes full of resolve. The decision is already made, and they know it. The first battle unfolds in a blur of chaos. The Dark Order ships open fire almost immediately, their weapons unleashing waves of devastating energy beams that rip through the Carlian fleet. In seconds, the Deathworlder ships move to intercept, but their agility doesn't seem to matter. The Dark Order is too fast, too precise. Their attacks are relentless and unyielding. Captain Kira is on the front lines of the conflict, guiding her ship through the bombardment. The Raven's Talon dodges and weaves with practiced grace, the hull groaning under the strain of evasive maneuvers. Her crew moves like a well-oiled machine, each person in tune with the others, anticipating every move. But even their skill seems barely enough as the Dark Order closes in with terrifying speed. She knows that the moment they make contact, it won't be just about skill. It will be about survival. On the ground, Anzo's team moves swiftly through the ruins of Carlian cities. Their mission is to secure critical installations and protect any remaining survivors, but they know that time is running out. The enemy is coming faster than expected, and there's no telling how much longer they can hold out. The jungles of Mercutio have made them experts in stealth and guerrilla warfare, but this is different here. They are fighting an enemy with technology far beyond anything they've faced before. As the sky fills with explosions and the roar of battle echoes through the air, Talon stands in the heart of the command center, watching as his fleet struggles against the overwhelming firepower of the Dark Order. He can feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The Carlians are fighting valiantly, but they're outmatched, their ships falling one by one in the face of such overwhelming force. "We need a plan, and we need it now." Talon's voice is calm but firm. He looks at the map before him and begins to issue commands, knowing that the slightest mistake could cost them everything. The Deathworlders move with the fierce determination that only they possess, but as the hours tick by and the battle rages on, the reality begins to sink in. The Dark Order is not just an enemy they can fight off. They are a force of nature, and for the first time, Talon feels the weight of what they are truly up against. A war unlike any other, a war that will take everything they have, and then some. But one thing is clear: The Deathworlders will never surrender. The battle rages on for what feels like an eternity. The Deathworlders fight with everything they have, but the Dark Order proves relentless. Their ships strike like shadows, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing just as quickly, leaving destruction in their wake. The Carlian fleet is falling apart faster than anyone can calculate with every blast from the Dark Order. Another city crumbles into ruin, yet despite the overwhelming odds, the Deathworlders refuse to yield. Captain Kira's voice rings out through the comms as she directs the Raven's Talon through another series of evasive maneuvers. Her crew is tired, but determined, each movement sharp and precise. Even in the face of annihilation, we need to hit them hard. She orders, no hesitation, this is it. We either break them or we die trying. She knows that the longer they remain in this stalemate, the more likely it is they'll be overwhelmed. There's no time for second guessing. They need to strike back, and they need to do it now on the ground. Sergeant Anzo's team is locked in a brutal firefight near one of the Carlian power stations. The Dark Order's ground forces have emerged from their ships. Monstrous, heavily armored beings that seem to be part machine, part creature. They move with terrifying precision, firing plasma rifles that melt through armor with ease. Anzo's men are dug in, using the wreckage of fallen buildings for cover, but even their advanced tactics aren't enough to turn the tide of this battle. We need more firepower. Anzo grits out as a blast sends debris flying around them. His soldiers move fast, calling in reinforcements, but the enemy is everywhere. They're outnumbered, and they know it. Back on the flagship, Talon's voice cuts through the comms again, rallying his forces into action. It's clear that the Deathworlders need a new strategy to turn the tide. They've been fighting with precision, relying on their training and experience, but it's not enough. They need to break the enemy's will, take away their advantage, and find their weakness. The Dark Order may have superior firepower, but they've made one fatal mistake. They've underestimated the sheer unpredictability of the Deathworlders. With a snap of his fingers, Talon signals the beginning of a bold plan, a tactic they've never used before. He orders a complete feint. All ships, small and large, are to scatter in different directions, engaging the Dark Order in a series of deceptive attacks. The fleet begins to splinter as ships break off, weaving in and out of combat, striking at the enemy's most vulnerable points. The Dark Order reacts in confusion, their disciplined formations beginning to fracture under the chaos of the sudden assault. Lieutenant Yara's team is ready on the ground. Their guerrilla tactics spring to life as they move into action. Their objective is simple: disrupt, confuse, and create openings for the main forces to attack. They know that if they can create enough chaos, the Dark Order will lose its focus even for a moment. And that's all they need: an ambush here, an explosion there, each action designed to pull the Dark Order's attention away from the larger battle. And then it happens: the first crack in the enemy's armor. A Dark Order ship is caught off guard by a well-placed missile barrage from Kira's ship. The blast rocks the vessel, sending it spiraling out of control and into one of its own fleets. The resulting explosion rips through the formation, taking out a significant number of enemy ships in a single strike. The Deathworlders push forward, their blood pumping with the rush of victory and the realization that they've found an opening. Sergeant Anzo's team seizes the moment. They break cover and charge forward, blasting through enemy lines with a combination of brute force and precise targeting. Their weapons tear through the Dark Order's ranks, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The ground shakes with each blast, but they press on, knowing that this is their chance to make a difference. The Deathworlders have found their rhythm, and for the first time since the battle began, the Dark Order begins to falter. Ships that once seemed invincible now begin to show signs of damage. Their formations crumble under the unpredictable onslaught of the Deathworlders' counterattack. Talon watches the holographic display, his heart pounding in his chest. He knows that this is the turning point. The Dark Order may be more powerful, but they are not infallible. With the fleet now turning the tide, the Deathworlders press on, knowing that they still have a long way to go before they can truly claim victory. But the key is clear: the Dark Order can believe they can be broken, and the Deathworlders have learned to fight in ways no one could ever predict. As the battle intensifies, the Deathworlders push forward with relentless fury. The Dark Order's formation is now in disarray, their ships burning in space, and their ground forces scrambling to regroup. But they aren't finished yet. Talon knows this moment is only the beginning of the true fight. The Dark Order will not go down without a fight, and the Deathworlders must press on, using every advantage they've gained to dismantle the enemy's strength. On the bridge of the Raven's Talon, Captain Kira is guiding her ship through a maze of enemy vessels. Her crew works in flawless synchronization, each person knowing their part and executing it without hesitation. She watches as the Dark Order ships fall in droves, their once imposing lines crumbling under the Deathworlders' fury. But even as victory seems within reach, Kira can feel the tension in the air. This battle is far from won, and the Dark Order will make them bleed for every inch they gain. In the chaos of the battle, Sergeant Anzo's team continues to wreak havoc on the ground. Their task is simple: find the Dark Order's command center and take it out. But that simplicity is quickly drowned in the violence of the ongoing conflict. The enemy forces have regrouped and are putting up a fierce resistance. Their monstrous soldiers are no longer retreating but advancing, pushing forward with a vengeance. Their weapons tear through the ruins of the city, and the ground shakes with every impact. Anzo's men are spread thin, fighting for every inch of ground, but they're not backing down. Not now. Not after everything they've endured. They push forward with brute force and military precision, engaging the Dark Order's soldiers in brutal close combat. They use their environment to their advantage, striking from the shadows and moving faster than the enemy can react. Their training has prepared them for this moment, and now they must deliver. In space, the Dark Order is rallying their remaining forces in an attempt to regroup. Their ships begin to form tighter formations, launching coordinated strikes that challenge the Deathworlders' maneuvering. But Talon sees an opening. He knows the Dark Order's ships are powerful, but their reliance on strength has become their weakness. They've grown predictable, and now it's time to strike. He issues the order to split the fleet again, this time into smaller, more agile units. They'll take advantage of the confusion they've created and attack from multiple angles, overwhelming the Dark Order before they can even react. The Deathworlder ships begin to shift, breaking off into smaller groups and engaging the enemy in rapid-fire assaults, each ship using its speed and agility to outmaneuver the Dark Order's larger, slower ships. Lieutenant Yara's unit on the ground is quick to adapt to the changing battlefield. She and her soldiers move through the city with deadly purpose, planting explosive charges on key structures and cutting off the Dark Order's supply lines. Their mission is clear: sever the enemy's ability to coordinate and supply their forces. The Dark Order's leadership is vulnerable now, and the Deathworlders are closing in on their command center with deadly efficiency. The momentum has shifted decisively in favor of the Deathworlders, but the Dark Order is far from finished. They fight with a cold, calculating fury that makes every moment feel like a battle for survival. Even as their ships are torn apart, they continue to press on, refusing to acknowledge defeat. Talon knows that this final push will take everything they've got, but he is confident in his team. They've fought in impossible conditions, and they've proven time and time again that they are capable of overcoming even the greatest of challenges. As the Deathworlders close in on the Dark Order's last stronghold, a final wave of enemy reinforcements emerges from the farthest reaches of space. A new fleet, even larger and more powerful than the previous one, arrives just in time to prevent the Deathworlders from finishing the job. Talon watches with a steely gaze as the enemy reinforcements appear on his tactical display. They're not backing down, and neither will he. The battle is far from over, but the Deathworlders are ready for whatever comes next. It's all or nothing now. Talon thinks, his jaw clenched with determination. We fight until the last breath, because that's what we do, and the Dark Order will learn that the Deathworlders never stop fighting, no matter how impossible the odds. The arrival of the new Dark Order fleet feels like a final death knell as Talon watches the massive reinforcements flood into the battle. A cold realization sets in. This could be it. This could be the end of everything they fought for. The Deathworlder ships are battered, and their forces are stretched thin. But there's no retreat, no surrender. The fight is far from over. And now more than ever, the Deathworlders must stand their ground if they hope to protect the galaxy from the Dark Order's unyielding assault. On the bridge of the Raven's Talon, Captain Kira grits her teeth as the new enemy ships enter firing range were outnumbered. She mutters to herself, "But we've been here before." She knows there's no time for doubt or fear, not when the enemy is so close. The crew moves with renewed urgency, adjusting strategies on the fly to account for the increased threat despite the overwhelming odds. Their resolve doesn't waver. They've faced death countless times, and each time they've emerged victorious. This will be no different. On the ground, Sergeant Anzo and his team are making their final push toward the Dark Order's command center. The battle has reached a fever pitch, with explosions and gunfire echoing all around them. The Dark Order's soldiers are everywhere, vicious and relentless, but Anzo's men fight with the same unyielding determination they've always had. They've endured far worse. This is just another test of their will as they push forward, cutting down enemies with brutal efficiency. They can feel the end is near, and the outcome hinges on this final strike. Lieutenant Yara coordinates with the fleet, directing a series of devastating airstrikes that disrupt the Dark Order's formations. Overhead explosions light up the sky as the Deathworlders launch salvo after salvo. Their attacks more concentrated than ever before. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon is now focused on breaking the Dark Order's final defenses. They know that if they don't win this battle, everything they've done will have been in vain. The galaxy, the future, everything is at stake. As the Deathworlder fleet splits into its smaller units once again, Talon commands a daring maneuver. He orders a full frontal assault against the heart of the Dark Order's fleet. They'll sacrifice a portion of their forces in order to create a path for the rest of the fleet to penetrate the enemy's core. The Dark Order is overconfident, thinking they can wipe out the Deathworlders without breaking a sweat. But Talon knows their arrogance is their downfall. He trusts in his soldiers, their ability to think, adapt, and fight when the odds are stacked against them. The Deathworlders charge into the heart of the enemy fleet, guns blazing and engines roaring through the firestorm. The chaos is overwhelming. But Talon's instincts guide him. The Dark Order's new ships are large, powerful, but their weakness lies in their over-reliance on size and firepower. They don't expect the Deathworlders to fight in such unpredictable, aggressive ways as the Deathworlder ships slip through their defenses, making impossible maneuvers. The Dark Order begins to falter. Their coordinated strikes are no longer as precise, and their ships begin to fall apart under the pressure. Back on the ground, Anzo's team finally reaches the Dark Order's command center as they breach the heavily fortified gates. The last remnants of the enemy forces put up a desperate resistance, but the Deathworlders are relentless. Their weapons roar to life as they tear through the command center's defenses, clearing a path straight to the heart of the operation. The final blow comes when Talon orders a massive combined assault on the Dark Order's flagship. With the enemy fleet in disarray and their ground forces crumbling, the Deathworlders focus all their firepower on the Dark Order's central vessel. The ship shudders under the weight of the assault, its shields finally buckling and its core exposed. Talon watches as the countdown begins to zero, and with a single devastating strike, the Dark Order's flagship explodes in a brilliant ball of fire. For a moment, the galaxy holds its breath, but as the darkness clears and the battlefield quiets, the Deathworlders know they have won. The Dark Order is defeated. The Carlian homeworld has been saved, and with it, the fragile hope of a galaxy on the brink of collapse. The victory is hard-earned, and the cost has been great, but as Talon stands on the bridge, watching the stars flicker in the distance, he knows one thing for certain: the Deathworlders have proven that survival is not just about enduring the storms. It's about shaping your destiny with your own hands, and today, they have shaped the galaxy's future. With the Dark Order's threat extinguished, the Deathworlders' fleet begins its slow journey home, but the war has taught them a hard lesson. Peace, no matter how hard won, is fleeting, and they will always be ready for whatever comes next.